Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to a new video. This is that Snapchat Yellow C6. If you're new to the channel and you're into car content, make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit like. Helps me more than you know. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to a new video. This is that Snapchat Yellow C6. If you're new to the channel and you're into car content, make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit like for me. Helps me more than you know. So today I have the opportunity to review this 2017 Honda Civic Si. It's the sport model compact level from Honda. As you can see here, it's a pretty vibrant red color. This car has only clocked about 27,000 miles, so still really fresh, as it should be. It is a 2017. This is going to be kind of a shorter review. I'm not going to go too crazy in depth, but I did just kind of want to get this car on the channel and show you guys all of its features and its strong points and weaknesses. So without further ado, let's get started. All right guys, so the power plant for this car, we have a turbocharged 1.5 liter 4-cylinder engine that produces 205 horsepower and 192 foot-pounds of torque. It's really a fun car to drive. I've drove it for the past day or so, and it's just been an absolute blast. It's not quite as fast as the Ford Focus that I reviewed a couple weeks ago, but it's still a ton of fun. But I will say this, so my favorite thing about this car so far is the gas mileage. You can put $10 of gas in it and go a long ways. So this car is rated at 28 miles to the gallon in the city and 38 miles to the gallon on the highway. So you can definitely get a lot of range with that for a little amount of money. So really good engine. I've read really good reviews on it so far. It's a Honda, and typically Hondas are pretty bulletproof, and I'm sure this one is no exception to that rule. All right guys, so let's get this 2017 Honda Civic Si started. All right, let's get it fired up, throw reverse, and take off down the road here. Release the park brake. By the way, this thing has an electronic park brake, which is kind of weird. Sometimes if you're quiet, you can actually hear it. Let me try and release it here. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but anyways, let's get started off here. So I want to go ahead and start by saying this car is absolutely, positively as bone stock as a car can get. This car has nothing done to it. Doesn't have an exhaust, an intake, or even tinted windows for that matter, or even like an aftermarket shifter. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. So this is going to be as close to a manufacturer's spec Honda Civic Si review as you're gonna get. So let's take off here. The car's only clocked about 26,000 miles. I kind of want to go ahead and start off the video by talking about the throttle response. So right off the bat, if you are a native to the channel, you knew that a couple of weeks ago I did a review on a 2013 Ford Focus ST, and I was talking about how the throttle response for a turbo car was actually pretty good. Overall, so far, I really like this car, but that is one thing that I'm not a fan of, is the throttle response. This car has a really bad turbo lag, so let me just go ahead and kind of demonstrate that. So we're gonna go into third gear at around 3,000 RPMs. I'm gonna snap my fingers when the car goes full throttle, and then I'm gonna snap my fingers when it finally reaches its full boost. So here we go, 3,000 RPMs, and that long. Pretty decent amount of time for turbo lag there, so that's a pretty gnarly turbo lag. Not a fan of that, but other than that, you know, the car drives really good. The car has really good steering feel. So this car actually has two different modes. It has a regular mode and it also has a sport mode. So I'm going to show you guys. So right here we have the sport button. So if I depress that, you will notice that the lights on the dash change to red and it goes into sport. And so what that does is gonna firm up the suspension a little bit, and then also I can really tell a big difference when it comes to the steering feel in the car. So the steering wheel gets tighter, the ride gets obviously a lot more firm. It seemed to help throttle response maybe a little bit, not a lot. The turbo lag's definitely still pretty bad. All right, and I also wanted to kind of talk about the power that it makes. So this car, as you saw earlier in the video when I was standing in front of it, I told you the car makes 205 horsepower and 192 pound-feet of torque. Okay, so to today's standards, that may not seem like a lot, and it's not, but when you're actually driving the car, you would never know it. If I was to guess the horsepower ratings of this car without being told before, I would guess it would be closer to the 240, 250 range. So it's light on its feet, and it actually does pick up really well. I mean, third gear, when the boost finally does kick in, I mean, it takes off pretty strong. It's definitely not bad. It feels like it's more than 205 horsepower in my opinion. Another thing that I mentioned in that Ford Focus review that was negative for that car is torque steer. So, you know, that was a front-wheel drive, 4-cylinder turbo car. This is as well, but I will tell you right now, the torque steer is nowhere near. In fact, let me do a little example here. The torque steer is really non-existent in this car, in my opinion. So I'm gonna hold the camera up here, and I'm gonna do the same thing that I did in that Ford. Here we are, I have it in second gear just like I did in the Ford. Let's get it up in the RPMs a little bit. All right, and here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna let off the steering wheel, and we're gonna see if it pulls to the left or right. In 3, 2, 1. Slight to the right. If you remember in that Focus video, it literally shoved us right into the ditch almost. So if you're not paying attention to that car, it'll come to bite you. This has none to very small amounts of torque steer. Next up, I want to talk about interior quality. So this car actually impresses me with this interior quality. There are some hard plastics, don't get me wrong. There's some right here around the vents. That's hard plastic, but actually the dash is I wouldn't say it's soft, but it's not like your typical hard plastic dash. It feels pretty nice. And the seats are really good quality. I will say that this car is a lot more comfortable than that Focus that I reviewed. The seats still hug you in place plenty fine, but it just seems like this car is a little bit more big boy friendly. If you're if you have a smaller stature, then it probably wouldn't matter to you anyway. But for me, if I had to choose a car to sit in every day out of those two cars, I would choose this one for comfortability wise over the Focus. We're also going to talk about the infotainment system and kind of just the car overall as far as technology. So I was really impressed with some of the technology that this car has. So it is a 2017, so it's already, you know, got about 3 years old now, but I'm really impressed with a lot of features that it has that even new cars don't have to this day. So a few of those features are, and this is one of my favorites, it really this actually makes me feel like I'm playing Forza a little bit. So if you look in here to the gauge cluster, you'll see in the center it has on the left a bar and on the right a bar, and you can see there's 2 bars lit up on the right. That's my foot on the brake. If I take my feet off the brake, it goes down. So it actually gives me the percentage of braking that I'm giving the car, and then also the percentage of gas that I'm giving the car, which is really cool. That literally makes me feel like I'm playing Forza. Now I can switch that over to some different settings. I'm not going to go through all of them, but it also has a boost gauge, which is really cool. As you can see here, it's not under load, so we pulled no PSI there. But if I were to take off, you would see that we would pull boost. So second gear, see it pulled about 13 PSI there. I thought that's a really cool feature. I'm a huge fan of that. I wish more cars had features like that. Another cool feature, you can see here, I flipped on my turn signal. I don't know if you can see with the light glaring there, but there's actually a side view camera on the passenger side of the car. So again, if I flip my signal to the right, the side view mirror pops up there, which is a really awesome safety feature that I'm a huge fan of. And I imagine that causes a lot less wrecks than cars that do not have that feature, especially with cars with bad blind spots. I'll be honest, this car really doesn't have an awful blind spot to begin with, but it's just an extra safety feature that I'm sure many others will appreciate as well. Okay, and I also want to talk about rear seat room. As you know, it's a 2-door coupe. This particular one is. This is not the 4-door Civic Si. It says 2-door coupe. Rear seat room, there's not a lot of it, but to be honest, it's not near as bad as what I have seen in some cars. So I have a friend who has a 5th gen Camaro, and there's just no room back there. I have rode back there before, so it is possible to ride in, but you would not want to go a long distance at all in that kind of car. This one, I wouldn't want to go cross country, but I could definitely ride for maybe an hour or two if I had to, and it wouldn't be too big of an issue. Next up, I'm going to talk about gas mileage. So this is probably one of my favorite things about this car. So as I stated before, it makes 205 horsepower, 192 foot-pounds of torque. But since it is a small displacement 1.5 liter 4-cylinder turbo, the fuel economy is actually really good. So I know this car is a sporty car, but actually the gas mileage is quite great. So in the city, this car is rated at 28 miles to the gallon in the city, and then it's actually 38 miles to the gallon on the highway. That's really, really good. And you can, you know, it has a smaller tank. You can fill this thing up for probably 20 bucks or maybe a tad bit more. And that's on premium fuel. Where I live in North Carolina right now, that's about $2.70 some per gallon at the moment. So that's just awesome. You could fill it up and go a long ways on $20 at 38 miles to the gallon. That's really, really good. And you're not sacrificing sport because it's still a lot of fun to drive. Still makes plenty of torque for a 4-cylinder. I'm really just a huge fan of the gas mileage in this car. And next up, I kind of wanted to talk about the sound. There's really not much sound, to be honest. You hear a little bit of engine noise and maybe a hair of exhaust noises, but it's in stock form. This car is really, really, really quiet, which, you know, a lot of people will like that. Me personally, I like a little bit more exhaust noise. I'm gonna also talk about clutch feel. So this car, the clutch is super, super light. Like, it almost feels like it has no resistance to it at all. Some people are gonna love that, some people are gonna hate that. I'm kind of in the middle. I like a little bit more responsiveness in my clutch, but at the same time, it's nice not having to have a left leg workout trying to drive the thing, because I've drove cars like that too. But I can definitely see both sides of the spectrum. If you are a potential buyer of this car, just know that the clutch is super, super light and very predictable throw, or very predictable engagement points in this car, which is a very good thing. And kind of to wrap this up, I kind of wanted to talk about cost. So as you know, this is a 2017 car, still very new, only 3 years old, just barely 3 years old, as we are into the first month in 2020. This is a 2017, and the cost, I've looked, you know, vaguely, and you might be able to find some cheaper, but roughly these cars are running in the $20,000 range. So the next question to that is, should I buy one or should you buy one? Here's what I'll say. I'll say if you're buying the car solely for its sport purposes, I would not recommend buying it, mainly because you can buy a car that performs just as well or very close to it for far less money. But if you're looking with a car with a really good safety features, really good infotainment system, next level gauges, and just technology overall, this is probably going to be the car that you want if you're wanting a sporty car with those features. You're not going to get stuff like this in, say, an old Acura RSX Type S or anything like that. So if you are somebody who has to have the nice amenities, I would say, yeah, sure, go for it. This is probably a good deal. At around $20,000 range, you're getting a good, reliable car. It's a Honda, really good on gas, really, really good on gas. I was really impressed by the numbers with the gas mileage. And the car's really engaging to drive. It's a lot of fun. All right, guys. So that's about gonna wrap it up for this review. If you're new here, make sure to slap that subscribe button. I appreciate it so much more than you know. We're a growing channel here in 2020. We just crossed over 1,000 subscribers, and I think we're about 1,030 right now, or right at it. So if you're into car content, you're into car reviews, or Corvette content, or really any car content at all for that matter, subscribe, like this video if you enjoyed the video. Let me know if there's something I missed out on. I always do. There will always be something in a car that I miss out on that somebody will, you know, really knock me over the head for it in the comments. So anyways, just leave it down below, and I'll try to address that. I always respond to all my commenters, so just comment down below if I miss anything. But other than that, guys, I hope you guys have an awesome day, and until next time, peace.